What's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to another episode of Upset Alert. It is episode number 69 of the Ultimate College Football Podcast, celebrating all 130 teams in FBS. Of course, this season is going to be a little bit different than any other season. We start every episode with the caveat that with that tagline comes an asterisk. There are 76 teams participating in fall football in FBS this season, at least as we currently know things. Of course, there's still rumblings going on, at least within the Big Ten, about the possibility of trying to salvage a fall season, kind of a late starting fall season, perhaps something in late October or November, perhaps, as opposed to what we were previously thinking would be a most likely spring or early winter, kind of January, February start for the Big Ten. So, with that still up in the air, of course, there's no real news to report on there. It's just continued rumblings, continued chatter, everything like that. What we can definitively talk about is we've got 1 week of FBS college football in the books. Of course, several group of 5 teams kicked off this past weekend. Starting Thursday night, we had a couple of games and then a decent slate of games on Saturday. The only one that we have not already discussed on this show, because our last episode was recorded prior to it being played, was the BYU and Navy game on Monday. Of course, that was a complete shellacking of the Navy midshipmen by BYU. The Cougars just came in there and looked like they were on a completely different level. Of course, there was some talk about Navy not really doing live tackling in practice. Prior to that game, it seemed to show, as BYU really just routed them in that football game. So I will wear the clown makeup on that one. I predicted Navy to win that game. I think Navy was a 1-point favorite going into that game. If you picked BYU, that was easy money. That was easy money because I think they cleared that spread by about 50 points. But that's neither here nor there. So let's move on to week 2. Tonight, of course, as I record here at about 4 p.m. on a Thursday, this episode coming late, just as last week's edition of the preview episode did. But trying to get this out there in the wild for you all before the games start tonight. Of course, tonight we'll have UAB and Miami, and then a full slate of Saturday games, including ACC and Big 12 teams kicking off their 2020 season. So let's, without any further ado, take a look at this week 2 schedule here and see what we've got going on. Of course, there was supposed to be the SMU at TCU game on Friday night, so tomorrow night. That was postponed due to some COVID-19 positive tests at TCU. So that game has been pushed back a week, just to kind of give them some more time to get everything straightened out, make sure they've got everyone properly quarantined, all that good kind of stuff. So, taking a look here, Thursday, so tonight, September the 10th, we've got our first game of the week, UAB at Miami. This is a decent football game, I think. I mean, at least there's the potential to be a decent football game here. UAB is a team that I told you guys I'm pretty high on coming into the season. This is a team that I picked to win Conference USA. They did not look particularly great last week against a much weaker opponent, at least what we expected to be a much weaker opponent. Gave up 35 points last week, but still dropped 45 as well. UAB is a good football team, and this is an interesting football game to me because Miami is someone who's gotten a lot of top 25 consideration, right? This is a team out of the ACC that we're getting a lot of hype around them, it seems, for this preseason. Just to give you an example, our preseason poll, of course, they did not make the initial top 25, but with all the Big Ten, Pac-12, Mountain West, etc. teams out, Miami comes in at number 23 for us in our preseason poll, and they're still kind of hovering around that same position now, not having played a game yet. We do, by the way, quick plug, have our updated rankings going into week 2 at Upset Alert Pod on Twitter if you want to check those out there in a thread on there are rankings of everyone, not just the top 25. But taking a look at this football game, it's a tough one to pick for me. I do think Miami's a good football team. I do think UAB is a good football team as well. UAB didn't show me much last week though, and I am in most circumstances going to give the general edge to the Power 5 team playing at home, even though there's not really going to be much of a home field advantage here, if any. I'm taking the Miami Hurricanes in tonight's game. Should be a decent football game, though, I think. Let's move along here. Of course, Friday, we mentioned the lone game that was on the slate has been postponed. So, Saturday, however, we have a full slate of games. So, let's take a look here and we'll kind of fly through some of these. As you see, there's quite a few. Syracuse at number 18, at least according to the AP poll. North Carolina. So Syracuse, not a particularly great team, right? North Carolina, certainly getting lots of top 25 votes. That looks like Tar Heels all day to me. Louisiana at number 23, Iowa State. The Raging Cajuns are the team who's going to be setting the standard in their division of the Sun Belt division, or Sun Belt Conference rather. Louisiana is probably second only to App State this year out of the Sun Belt in terms of their level of expectations. If you guys have been listening to the podcast for the last at least week or so, you know that I picked Arkansas State to win that division that Louisiana's in out of the Sun Belt. I picked Arkansas State to play App State in that conference championship game, but Louisiana is going to be the favorite to do that. They're a very good football team. I like the Raging Cajuns a lot. I did pick them to lose this game at Iowa State, though. I like Iowa State out of the Big 12. I'm pretty high on that team as someone who could rock the boat a little bit in the Big 12 outside of the Oklahomas, Oklahoma States, and Texases, who are probably the three sexiest teams in that conference this year. We've got Charlotte at App State. I've got App State here by a pretty comfortable margin. This one's on ESPN2, by the way, at noon. That Louisiana at Iowa State game on Big ESPN. I like App State in this game. I have a hard time finding losses for App State on their schedule this year. Excuse me. This was a very, very good team last year. Of course, they've had a lot of turnover as far as the coaching staff. Once again, they've got another new head coach this year. Last year, having a first-year head coach worked out all right for them. They only lost the one game to Georgia Southern. I predicted them to do the same this year, honestly. I think it's going to be a similar kind of year for App State. So I think they're going to handle Charlotte in that noon game. West Virginia hosting Eastern Kentucky. Not much to talk about here. That's an FCS opponent at a kind of middle tier Big 12 team, maybe lower middle tier Big 12 team in West Virginia. I like the Mountaineers to roll there. Arkansas State at Kansas State. So Arkansas State is 0-1. But of course, like I said, I picked them to win the conference because I think they're going to win a lot of games in their conference this year. They're playing against Kansas State, who's a pretty strong Big 12 opponent, I think. I'm liking Kansas State in this game. That's the 12 p.m. Fox game. Um, I think Kansas State's a pretty good football team this year. They're not going to be as good as Oklahoma or Texas, probably, but this is a pretty good team out of the Big 12. They're maybe the fourth or fifth best team in the conference this year to me. I think they are in that upper echelon of the Big 12. I think they're going to score a lot of points on a lot of folks that you see year in and year out. They're pretty disciplined. Not really a team that beats themselves a lot. Arkansas State, I think, is going to be, excited to go in there, but it's hard to get too hype coming off already one non-conference loss against Memphis, who was a pretty good football team this year, as well as last year. I just like Arkansas State to come in here and maybe challenge Kansas State a little, but Kansas State, I certainly expect to walk out with the win in this one. Moving along, UL Monroe at Army. Army had one of the most impressive wins of week one just because of the nature, not the quality of the opponent, But they played Middle Tennessee and won that one 42-0. One of the more dominant wins of Week 1. Army looks to do the same against UL Monroe. UL Monroe is probably even worse than Middle Tennessee, or at least on that same level. 1:30 p.m. at CBS Sports Network. You can probably cross that one off your watch list. Army should run away with that one. Notre Dame hosting Duke at 2:30 on NBC. Um, I don't really see much competition here either. Notre Dame is a legitimate top 10 team, as you see the number 10 next to their name on here. I think they belong there. I really do this year. I don't see a ton of losses on Notre Dame's schedule, even in, we talk about Notre Dame needs to join a conference to be more legitimate, right? I don't see who's going to beat them on that ACC schedule. There's a couple teams that you could give a chance to beat them. They play Clemson, of course, in the regular season. That's going to be a real tough game for them, but Duke is not going to put up much of a fight, I don't think, against the Fighting Irish. That looks like a win for Notre Dame pretty comfortably. Georgia Tech at Florida State at 3:30 on ABC. I think Georgia Tech might be the worst team in the ACC this year. They actually were picked, some jokes online about how bad do you have to be picked 15th in a conference with 14 teams, because they were picked to finish 15th overall in the conference this season in some media polls, since Notre Dame has added themselves to the ACC this year. Georgia Tech is a bad team, right? They're rebuilding. They're still early on in that rebuild. I think Georgia Tech will get at least mildly better over the next couple of years, but it's just hard, right? It's hard for a school like them, for a football team like them, rather, to exist in a state with a team like the University of Georgia, who's going to eat their lunch in terms of recruiting. It's really difficult. It's not like an Auburn and Alabama situation where you both have these historically great football programs that have had recent success. It's you've got one who is dominating the other in terms of getting those in-state talents and just getting talents from even around the area all throughout the Southeast. So it's a tough go of it to recruit good high level talents to Georgia Tech to play football. They're early in that rebuild. I think Florida State, of course, is going to be a little better this year. I like the chances of their offensive line improving this year, at least by enough to give them some more wins than they've had the last couple of seasons. I do think Florida State will be a significantly better team this year, so I think they show that off starting in Week 1 against the Yellow Jackets. UTSA at Texas State, 3:30 p.m. I don't know how this got the ESPN2 slot. I'm going to be honest with you. That is not a very exciting game right there. Neither of these two teams I would really expect to do too much in the grand scheme of things in this 2020 football season that is going to be so unique. But I don't know. I really don't know. Texas State looked surprisingly competent. Surprisingly competent in their Week 1 matchup against SMU. They actually made it a really interesting football game for most of the game, which I was genuinely not expecting. So I actually gave Texas State a little bit of a bump in the rankings this week, despite the loss to SMU. I thought Texas State showed a lot of heart last week. They showed that they have some talented players, especially at wide receiver, some circus catches in that football game. If they can do more of the same, I like them against UTSA, and so I am picking those Bobcats to win on ESPN2. That would be a pretty nice win to kick off kind of some more even keeled scheduling for them. I think SMU is a significantly more talented team that just didn't necessarily show it in Week 1. Georgia Southern hosting Campbell at 3:30 on ESPNU. I'm I'm okay on Georgia Southern. I'm a little lukewarm on Georgia Southern. I think they're a decent football team this year. I think by Sun Belt standards, they're going to be one of the top, 4 or 5 teams in the conference, I believe. Georgia Southern is going to be pretty good. They'll certainly be plenty good to handle Campbell at 3:30 on ESPNU. That is Eagles all the way. Pitt hosting Austin P. FCS opponent here as we see a kind of a string of FBS versus FCS games. Not much to speak of here. Pitt's going to roll in that one. Same story for the next one. Number 5, Oklahoma at 7 p.m. hosting Missouri State. Missouri State does not stand a chance in that one. Oklahoma's going to win by about 60. South Florida hosting the Citadel. I saw someone on Twitter post that they had a what they considered to be a hot take that the Citadel would continue to get I believe this would be their third season with an FBS win. If they were to do this, they predicted the Citadel to beat South Florida. This person that I saw on Twitter, I don't remember who exactly it was. I apologize, but one of those college football fan account kind of things. South Florida is not a good team, right? South Florida is just, they're one of the worst teams in the American Athletic Conference this season. I don't expect them to do much in that conference to be any kind of competitor. I'm not going to pick them to lose to the Citadel, though. It may be an ugly game, but I do think they are going to get the win against the Citadel. Wake Forest hosting Clemson. This is the big ABC game of the evening, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. This is where College Game Day will be emanating from on this Saturday morning. Number 1 preseason, consensus number 1 pretty much across everyone's polls. Clemson at Wake Forest. Wake Forest doesn't stand much of a chance here. Let's call it what it is. This is a team that had its moments a year ago. They certainly had their moments a year ago, but that was with quarterback Jamie Newman, who then transferred to Georgia and now has opted out of the 2020 season altogether. And of course, Sage Surratt, they're at one time Heisman hopeful. I thought maybe mid-season that this guy was going to be a Heisman finalist. Sage Surratt, they're all American, all whatever wide receiver who also has opted out for the 2020 season and will head to the NFL draft. They are missing their 2 biggest offensive weapons from last year. That takes a significant hit. So their offense, rather, takes a significant hit coming into this season. This team is still going to be better than the bottom of the ACC, but they don't really stand much of a chance to compete with Clemson. The only thing I can see is maybe you see a little bit of first game jitters, a little early season sloppiness with the weirdness of the off season and preseason lack of spring practices and things like that from Clemson. But Clemson is a team that is more of a known commodity this year in college football than just about any team that I can remember in college football coming into a fresh season. It's hard to think of someone who you feel more confident in than the combination of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne on the offensive side of the ball, not to mention their stellar wide receiver core. They've got a solid offensive line. Their defense is lights out, as usual. At least it looks like it will be on paper. I fully expect Clemson to roll against Wake Forest. Again, they might start off a little bit slow in this one, but I'm thinking this is probably in the neighborhood of at least a 4 to 5 touchdown win for Clemson. Tulane at South Alabama. Tulane, in theory, is the better team here. South Alabama looked real good in week 1, though. South Alabama came out and I think surprised a lot of people in their first game of the season. Of course, beating Southern Miss in Hattiesburg, and this was such a disappointing loss that you actually see Southern Miss's head coach, Jay Hobson, step down as the head coach after just one game of the 2020 season. I think South Alabama can roll with this momentum. They're on ESPN2 at 7:30 p.m. Saturday night. I like the South Alabama Jaguars to win against Tulane as well. I think they could roll with this hype a little bit. Of course, we can't get too excited for South Alabama because these are still out of conference games for them. Not really going to affect them in the long term here. But I like this South Alabama team to keep building a little bit. Speaking of teams you can't get too excited about, UTEP is on the road at number 14, Texas, 8 p.m. on the Texas Longhorn Network. UTEP I picked to be the worst team in college football. I will give credit where credit's due. Their schedule changed, so they played Stephen F. Austin, an FCS team, to kick off their regular season schedule. UTEP is 1-0 after a 10-point win over Stephen F. Austin. That might be the only win they get all season. It remains to be seen. They might have a couple close ones down the road with some of those lower tier teams they play. They certainly are not even going to come remotely close to 50 to 60 point win for Texas. To me, it's going to get real ugly real fast. Texas is a good football team. Any competent football team out of the FBS should be able to handle UTEP. Texas, of course, getting them at home as well. I like the Longhorns to score a ton of points in that game. Louisville hosting Western Kentucky at 8 p.m. on the ACC network. This is actually a kind of a sleeper, one of the sleeper best games of the week, I think. A lot of these early games for these ACC and Big 12 teams, a lot of them are knocking their non-conference game out as early as possible, so they're playing it this first week that they play. I like this football game though. This is not like UTEP Texas, This is not like Austin P in Pittsburgh. This is a pretty decent Western Kentucky team, an actual conference championship contender out of Conference USA. And I like the Hilltoppers. Going into Louisville, they have a chance to actually make some noise in this game, but I'm not going to go against Louisville in this one. Louisville has an explosive offense. They have a quarterback there right now who's going to remind you a lot of Lamar Jackson in terms of his dual threat ability, just his sheer playmaking ability. I like Louisville to win this game. Western Kentucky could keep it close. Houston Baptist at Texas Tech. There's not much to say here. FCS Houston Baptist has already lost a game against an FBS opponent this year. Texas Tech is going to win this one. Texas Tech not particularly great, but that should be a comfortable win still. Coastal Carolina at Kansas. This one's a wild card, and it's a 10 p.m. game, kind of subbing in for the Pac-12 after dark action since we don't get any of that this fall. This one could get a little crazy, I think. Les Miles as head coach at Kansas, of course, you never know what to expect with him. I just don't know what to think of him. I don't know if he's a good coach anymore or not. I know Kansas is not a good football team, and Coastal Carolina isn't either. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre. Just looking at the fact that this game exists, I actually, part of me doesn't know what direction this is gonna go. I think I am gonna pick Kansas to win this football game. I do think Kansas is terrible. There's a complete chance that they go winless in their Big 12 schedule this year. So this is their best chance at a win all season, I would say. Better than their game against Texas Tech or West Virginia or whoever else you could throw in there. Certainly better than their chances against the Big 12's elite like Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, even Baylor you can throw in there as well. This is Kansas's best shot at a win all year. If they don't get one here, it might get ugly. Going down the road, I do like the Jayhawks to win, but I think this is going to be an ugly, crazy football game. I think there's going to be a lot of turnovers, probably a lot of balls just popping right out of guys' hands, probably a lot of dropped passes, things like that in here too. I don't know. I see some wackiness definitely ensuing between Coastal Carolina and Kansas because Coastal knows that this is their chance to go get a Power 5 road win because Kansas is bad, and Kansas knows this is probably their best shot at a win all season of any kind. But that's going to about wrap us up for episode 69 of Upset Alert. That's the entire slate of games. You see everything else. For those of you watching here on video, everything else, we had a few games down here that were postponed. Florida International at UCF, Marshall at East Carolina, and Louisiana Tech at Baylor, all postponed. But some good football games still to be played this coming weekend, so that is pretty exciting stuff. Of course, having any form of college football seems like a treat in this crazy year that we are experiencing. So we continue to keep an ear to the ground as far as all the news of the college football world. And that's really all we can do at this point. Just keep an ear to the ground and kind of keep an eye on all of the social medias. Of course, you guys can follow us on Twitter at Upset Alert Pod, hashtag Upset Alert on Twitter as well. And that is where we normally post, any college. We share any college football news that comes into the world. At any given time, we post our updated rankings there once a week, normally the morning after or the afternoon after the final game of the weekend has been played. We, post all kinds of additional college football content on there as well, as that's where I update when we are going live here on twitch.tv/robotbraineater with our video form of the podcast, where you get to see these lovely college football highlights going on in the background as I speak, and kind of get a visual aid when we're talking about schedules as well. So I want to thank you guys so much for listening. If you are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever podcast service you tend to use, you can find us on there. Please do hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you can, take the time to leave us a 5-star review as well. Greatly appreciate that, as it helps us get more eyeballs and more ears on the podcast. If there's anything else that we can do here to make this a better college football experience for you, just let us know at Upset Alert Pod on Twitter, or drop your predictions for your favorite team. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until Monday, we will see you later.